Good afternoon, Patron, and welcome to my Patreon page once again. The reason why I'm doing this video is this is my first post in my Patreon page, and you get to be a part of it. And what I'm going to talk about for my first post is actually a little bit more background about me as a SAS shooter, how I got involved in SAS, and the more of an in-depth reason of why I love it so much. I think that in order to be invested in something, you have to really understand the person behind the product, and this is me trying to do that. So I'm going to try and keep this as unedited as possible so that you can see me truly for what I am if you were just to talk to me face to face, because that's what I'm expecting us to kind of have, is that sort of relationship. I want us to feel comfortable to talk about things that SAS brings us as far as joy, and feel that you can really communicate with me. Forgive me if this video is going to be a little too long for you, but I'm going to do the best I can to explain and answer as many of your questions that you might have about me, because I'm interested in you as well. Feel free to comment on this video and introduce yourself. Even though you may be a YouTuber and have already introduced yourself on my Facebook page or YouTube, I probably don't know you as well as I would want to. Okay, so here it goes. I got involved in SAS back in 2014. So let me go back a little bit further. I was in the Army, believe it or not. If you guys didn't know that, maybe some of you already did. But basically, I was in the Army for 4 years. Even when I was in SAS, I was still in the Army, so I didn't complete my commitment until after I joined SAS, which was in 2016. But I was in the Army in the process, and what happened was I ended up deploying to Korea. Some of you, I mean, there may be some patrons who are on here who are prior service members or were in the military as such, and you might be thinking, well, a deployment. Yeah, that's not really a deployment. Well, it depends on what you define as deployment. I define a deployment as going overseas. So you could say that it wasn't a combat tour, if that's what you're getting at, and I'll admit that it wasn't. So there are other people out there that had experienced things that I didn't get to experience, and that's okay. That is, that's just the nature of the beast. So, but nonetheless, that aside, I was in Korea at the time, and I was there for 9 months. And I had enjoyed myself over there. It was great seeing another country. That's one of the reasons why I joined the Army, and the service was to kind of explore and see things that were outside of the United States. Even as much as I had noticed from South Korea that there's a lot of people over in other countries that might have similar freedoms to ours, and might be similar in nature to ours as far as government, I noticed that they really didn't. A lot of it was kind of a facade. They wanted to be like us, that's the thing. So because I was over there and I saw the freedoms that they had versus what we have, even, that's for another conversation altogether. But for the freedoms that we do explicitly have in this country are what a lot of democracies and a lot of republics are trying to come up with, and they want to model it after us. I wouldn't say they're jealous of us. I would just say that they want their government and their freedoms to be like ours, but they don't have it yet. And so being over there made me appreciate that freedom even more when I got back to the States. Well, 9 months later, after experiencing Korea, enjoying the sights and sounds and smells, I I got back from Korea and I wanted to find a hobby, because what I essentially realized was that I was working a lot, and even when I was stateside in the Army, I really didn't give a whole lot of time to myself. What I thought was actually leisure was more work for people instead. Or leisure to me, I shouldn't even say it was work. I should just say leisure to me was very lackadaisical and just sitting on the couch and watching TV. And I don't want to do that anymore. I pretty much, I would get off of work and I would be exhausted and tired and just wouldn't want to do anything else. And so what I'd end up doing is I would just crash in front of the couch all weekend and try to pretty much just catch up on sleep. That eventually got really old really fast. So I started looking for other outlets, and I started looking into hobbies. Well, also, for those of you who have been overseas or in the military at some point and never had a chance to spend money overseas, which I did in Korea, but I didn't spend as much as most people. But the thing is that I had saved up quite a bit of money from being in Korea, and that money that I got from that deployment was able to help pay for my initial experience in a new hobby. And so I decided to set aside a certain amount of money to help me find a hobby. Well, lo and behold, I had already known about YouTube, and I wanted to get into hunting for some reason. Go figure. But I wanted to go hunting. It's something that I wanted to do all my life, and I never really got the chance to do it. My dad always promised that he would do it with me or teach me, but I was never in an area because, well, let's be honest, I was in California, and we all know how they feel about guns. Sorry, my California patrons, but I'm not really a fan of California. I was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, and then decided to find residency in Texas, which is pretty awesome, by the way. So come on out here if you know what I mean. So the thing is that I wanted to get involved in hunting, and I did. I tried it. I went actually on a paid hunt, which, to be honest with you, really wasn't hunting to me. I kind of pictured hunting more as like I would be out in the woods and stalking and, for days, and I wasn't. It was more like 45 minutes and shooting an animal, which, I had no problem with doing that, but it wasn't what I quite expected. So, lo and behold, it was kind of a bust for me. Not that I don't like hunting, I do, but it wasn't something that I wanted to dedicate to as a hobby. So, I began looking at YouTube a lot more, and somewhere down the line, when I was really, really young, we're talking like elementary school, middle school, late elementary school. My dad, even though he didn't take me shooting, didn't take me hunting, got me into shooting. And I loved guns. Okay, well, that explained me wanting to go hunting, but I'm getting to it. But the thing was that hunting, the first rifle that I actually got for Christmas was a Browning lever-action rifle. And let me tell you, if you guys have ever used a Browning lever-action rifle in 308, you'll find out real quick that it is an extremely powerful cartridge, and that rifle kicks like a mule and it hurts. Even for a big guy like me. I'll admit it, I enjoyed shooting it for all of 4 rounds, and then at the end of the day, I'm just glad I only shot 4 rounds, and that was it. My shoulder couldn't take anymore. Because the rifle was extremely light. You know, and a 308 has a pretty good kick to it, especially if it's not on a bipod or something. So, but the first rifle he introduced me to was a lever action. And so I decided that, you know, I kind of fell in love with lever actions from that point. I didn't know about cowboy action yet because I was really young and didn't really care to think about that. But then I, you know, later on in my adult life, I said I was into hunting. And then I said, well, maybe I just want to get into, you know, marksmanship shooting or something like that. And I didn't know where to start, but I knew what kind of guns I liked. That was the thing. And I thought to myself, you know what? I want to go out and get another lever action gun, but I want to get one of those brass ones. I didn't know the name of them yet. So I wanted to get one of the brass ones. Well, when I kind of looked around and started looking at YouTube videos, found out that it was the Henry Big Boy, I wanted to get myself a Henry Big Boy and use that for some sort of marksmanship. So I did. I went out and bought a Henry Big Boy in .45 Colt, and I shot it all of about see how many times I actually shoot it. It's kind of funny. I didn't shoot it that much because I still didn't find time to really go out to the range, and I was just going out and shooting paper targets. And, you know, you can only do that so much before you realize you have to find something else to do with your time. Like, you have to go hunting or you have to do something. You know, there has to be a follow-on to paper shooting, because if you're doing paper shooting, you're doing it to zero your rifle. Well, I would zero it, and then I would maybe shoot for a little bit, and then I'd be like, you know what, I'm done with this. I want to leave. You know, it's hot or it's cold, and I want to get out of here. But, you know, needless to say, I didn't use the rifle that much. Well, and then, because I kind of got tired of the target shooting, the paper shooting, I decided that it would be cool if I started looking for more competitive sports. And lo and behold, somehow, I don't even know how I did it, but I typed in, like, shooting sports or Cowboy something into YouTube, and sure enough, what popped up was the, some people might actually laugh at this, but the Cowboy action promo video. And I don't remember who did it, but I remember the music to it, and the music was to, it was the song Light 'Em Up, and I can't remember who did it. You have to refresh my memory. I wish I could tell you that. But it was Light 'Em Up, and it was just a 2-minute video, and it had some real big-time SAS members in it. Santa Fe River Stan, I think, was one of them, and Dang It Dan. And although I've never met those individuals, I still remember their names. And, you know, they were telling their story of how SAS was, you know, such a competitive and cool sport, and you got to use things of the cowboy era, and I was like, wow, that really looks like me. You know, they have lever action guns. They got single action pistols and a shotgun. I'd go purchase a single action pistol and a shotgun just to get involved in the sport. Heck, even the clothes looked great. You know, speaking of that, there's a whole nother story to that. You know, that really got me involved in kind of the cowboy culture, which is kind of weird. You know, I'll tell you about that in a second. But anyway, what I was trying to tell you is there's a lot of ums in this video, but that's okay. I'll get that out. Where was I? I lost myself. Anyway, so I saw the video and I thought, well, that sounds great. I am going to find a SAS club, found out it was called SAS, Single Action Shooting Society, and that it was cowboy action shooting that they were doing. And so I looked them up online, found sasnet.com, and I started looking for clubs in my area, And lo and behold, there was one that wasn't too far away. It was actually called the Green Mountain Regulators. Shout out to my Green Mountain Regulators if you're actually on here. You know, there's a good group of people, and I shoot with you guys whenever I can. I know it's kind of hard because I have a kid and all. But I love being with those guys, and they really are awesome because they mentor me, and they've just been extremely welcoming. But that's besides the point. I'll talk about that later. Anyway, so I went out to my first match, and I took not my big boy, because actually what happened was I actually got rid of it. Even though I found out that a big boy is SAS legal, it didn't look as Cowboy to me. And I had no intention of doing the speed thing. That was going to come later. But, you know, it didn't look as authentic. And I thought, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it so that it's authentic. And I want to be historically accurate. And that's what I went with. So I decided to go purchase a historically period correct weapon. And my first purchase for pistols was going to be a Colt clone, single action Ruger Nu Vaquero. I didn't do my research on it, but a Ruger Nu Vaquero sounded great, and I got it in the cartridge of 45 Colt, which I thought bigger the better. Some people would argue with me and say, well, not as good as 38. That's okay. I shoot 45 Colt still, so whatever you think on that one, doesn't really matter. So I purchased 2 Nu Vaqueros in 45 Colt, stainless steel, and those were my sidearms. Then I purchased a leather rig from El Paso Saddlery. It was the shootist rig. For those of you who actually have looked through catalogs in El Paso Saddlery, we'll talk about that when we get into videos, but that's my first rig, and I still have it and still use it. But it's the shootist model, which is extremely comfortable. And, it looked absolutely beautiful. So I went out and I purchased that. I bought a knife. I bought a slide for a 20 gauge, and I went out and I bought a 20 gauge Stoeger. Stoeger double barrel internal hammer, and that's been a great shotgun for me too. And my rifle, ready for it, is actually my first rifle was a 1866 replica made by Uberti, and I still use it as well in a carbine version. Those were my first purchases, and then eventually after that I did my first match, and the people there walked me through the stages, and at the time we only had 5 stages, I believe. Now we've got like 9 or 10, so the club has grown, but it was pretty much, a lot of it was out in the open except for a few stages. That's besides the point. But they showed me the ropes, and pretty much I was hooked from there. I went out and shot my first match, and I think I shot in like a minute 30. Nothing to really snarl at for a first timer. Shot it two-handed, and really thought I'd develop my style later on. I enjoyed it so much that I went out and started trying to collect firearms when I probably shouldn't have. I went gun crazy, essentially. Gun crazy and gear crazy. I went out and bought clothes, and I bought knives, and I bought guns, and I bought hats, and I just went nuts. And let me tell you, it was the best and worst decision for me to do that. Financially, it killed me for a little bit. But I'm glad that I did it when I did that. A lot of those weapons that I purchased, I still have. So I never had to get rid of them. And some of those you will see in videos as reviews and takedowns and all that. Some people like to joke because my alias is Slick Sixguns. I even got one guy who said Slick 17 Guns because I ended up bringing, I think, 3 or 4 separate rifles to a match because I wanted to shoot one rifle every stage, just kind of go. And my idea behind that was to essentially progress through the time periods of rifle lever action development. Like I started with the Spencer, and then even though the Spencer and the Henry came up around the same time, I had a Spencer, and then I would shoot the Henry, and then I would shoot the 66, and then I would shoot the 73. And people were like, "You're crazy." But massive style points, though, man. Let me tell you, that's definitely where I win, is in the style points. Those of you who know what I'm talking about, you know what I mean. But style points, and anyway, so that's how I was hooked, and that's how I got started in cowboy action, and I loved it so much that is what I look forward to. And to be honest with you, I only shoot once a month. There are some people that have the time and do it every week, and you can literally do it every weekend. There's people that go all the way down to Bastrop, Texas, for the first weekend of the month, go to Fredericksburg, Texas for the second week, go to Blanco for the third, and then go to Green Mountain Regulators for the fourth. And I just don't have the time to do that, or the resources, just because of my current situation with my job, and I'm not really able to be mobile with a kid. But regardless, I am able to go to at least one match per month. And the plus side to that is the Green Mountain Regulators have a long distance match, and I didn't even know that existed in cowboy action until I started talking to a few of the members. And when I found out about the long distance match, I got really excited because I love distance shooting. And we'll even talk about the Buffalo rifle that I have, and the requirements for shooting big bore single shot rifles, if that's what you want to get into, because that kind of sets more of an equal playing field for me. I always looked at the cowboy action shooting game as, I would never be number one in speed, because one, I just don't have time to practice, because it takes practice, and two, I didn't have money for all the modifications and all that, and pretty much it just came down to practice. And even then, I say that and I don't really practice with long distance, but I have a knack for it, and it took a couple times for me to learn how to do it. But because it's not really fast shooting, you get to just kind of sit there and joke with people on the firing line, and you all just kind of spectate and watch as everyone shoots, and if you miss, everyone kind of makes fun of you. But that's all part of the game on the long distance side, and so it's a different kind of spirit of the game. But I got hooked onto that as well, so I went out and bought a single shot rifle. So I have that too, and I'm going to show you that. Now let's talk a little bit about fast draw. I got involved in fast draw as well around the same year that I got back from Korea. A little bit later than SAS, because once again I was kind of surfing YouTube videos, and I started seeing all these different big name people doing videos on their times and such, and I was really impressed with that. And then sure enough, I ended up running into a CFDA, or Cowboy Fast Draw Association, video that talked about that they only used wax bullets in a .45 caliber pistol and a quick draw rig. And it was a lot easier, I guess, to budget-wise to get involved in that sport. And so even though I had all the guns for SAS, I went ahead and said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get involved in fast draw too. That way I have two hobbies. Well, two hobbies is kind of hard to do sometimes. But I did it because it was just me, totally me, and I was excited. And I went and did fast draw, and I would do fast draw once a month. I don't really do it anymore. I haven't done fast draw in a long time. I still know a little bit about the game, and I still know some of the requirements, and I am willing to get back involved into it. But the only problem is I moved, and I had to actually give up give up going because it was, a 4-hour drive one way to go to a match, and I couldn't find a single, and still can't find a single fast draw club that is anywhere near me close to 4 hours. I've even thought about making one myself, making a club myself for fast draw, because I would do it in a heartbeat. But I don't have the time to set it up. But I eventually would like to see a club pop up in this area, and if it does pop up, I'll get involved in it. But we'll talk about fast draw as well. But I got involved at the same time, and like I said, I would go back to it. But that, in a nutshell, is a little bit about me, and a little bit about why I got involved in SAS, and how I got so involved in it, and fast draw as well. And the last thing I'll say about that is one thing I forgot to mention, and I have to say it because you can't really understand why I got involved with it until you understand this portion of my life, which I'll explain. I was back in college, and this is about, looking back at it, God, it's really been, wow, now I think about it, 7 years, 8 years ago, about almost a decade ago. It's weird saying that. I'm not even that old. I'm 30 years old, by the way, in case you're ever wondering. 30 years and aging every day because my hair is constantly receding, if you couldn't tell. I always shave my head anyway, but it doesn't matter. So I was in college about 10 years ago, and I don't know what caused me to, but what I guess really kick-started my love for all things cowboy and cowboy history, and sort of, I almost want to call the cowboy attitude, is what happened to me in college. I was kind of down on my luck with school a little bit, and my personal life wasn't going so great, and I had suffered kind of a significant, not that anyone hasn't experienced this, but I had a significant relationship that had broken up. Now that I think about it, I'm glad it ended because I got something way better than that now. So, but I was, at the time, kind of not really in a good place, and I needed to find something. Once again, I fell into a rut, like I did with the Army, just kind of going home, falling asleep. I needed to find something that was going to channel my energy and make me more of a positive person, because I started figuring this out about myself. But if I don't have anything to do, I have a tendency to get very negative. And I wanted to pursue something so I could channel my energy so that I could essentially feel more alive. I don't know how better to describe that. And so what I decided to do is I decided to go out and purchase a pair of cowboy boots. Because I was like, you know what? Not everybody, not every college kid has them, and I wanted to get them. And so I went and purchased my first pair of cowboy boots, and I still have them to this day. And I still wear them. They were that good. They were Ariats, a brown pair of Ariats with an excellent design on them, and I'll show them to you when we talk about gear as far as wear for cowboy action on my YouTube channel. But I went out and bought myself a pair of boots, and I went out and bought myself a hat, and it was a black resistal hat. And let me tell you, I got some good use out of that hat. I wore it every Friday. I kind of gave it the moniker of, I called it Cowboy Fridays. I would dress up and go to class with my boots and my cowboy hat every Friday. And boy, did I get a lot of people that had some questions, and because they just didn't see that every day. Even though I was in Arizona, go figure. It's more of a, you'd see it more in Texas. But Arizona even, some people might wear boots, but on a college campus, not everybody is from Tucson, Arizona. They may be from out of state, so they're not usually used to doing that kind of a culture thing. So I had cowboy boots and a hat, and I would walk around campus on Fridays, and that kind of gave me confidence, and it gave me security in knowing that that's who I was. And if I didn't like who I was, I could be somebody else. Or if I really wanted it, I said that wrong. If I didn't like how I was feeling, I could just be myself and be secure in the fact that I could wear whatever I wanted and feel amazing. I don't know how else to put it. And I just did. It gave me confidence, and it gave me power of just being me. And so that's kind of where I got my love for wearing cowboy stuff. And then I didn't care what other people thought. Like I said, the cowboy attitude. You do what you do, and you just saddle up, keep riding, and forget what everyone else has to say about it. And I took that to heart, and I still do to this day, and it's definitely helped me in my career path, and kind of what I've chosen for my lifestyle. If you stick with me as a patron, I'll show you all sorts of background footage and where I do all my filming, as well as just a little bit more about me personally, so you can get to know me one-on-one. But because of my attitude and my determination, which was definitely inspired by my love for cowboy and cowboy history and clothing, got me involved in SAS, and it made me who I am today. And that's why I love cowboy action shooting so much. It's pretty much just a cream on top. It's just the cherry on top of what it meant to me to essentially pursue an identity. And maybe you're feeling that same way too. And I want to help others be able to see that identity in themselves. And so that's why I want more people to get involved. It took me a while to get involved, but if I can help someone realize that through the videos I produce, then maybe that would cause more people to join cowboy action and fast draw, and we can have more of a longevity for the sport to exist in generations. Because to be honest with you, what I want, maybe he may not want it, but my son, I'd love to just make this a family sport, because my wife shoots too. I'm not going to say she absolutely loves it, but it's something we do to spend time together. And I eventually want to make it a family thing, because I know some people do that already, but it's just so welcoming and inviting to foster young minds, and I think it's absolutely great. So that I know I've dragged this on for far too long, but I felt that as a patron, you really needed to get to know my story as to why I joined cowboy action or SAS, fast draw, why I had an interest in it, and also to further help you understand why I am pushing this effort for people to join. So once again, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to maybe meeting you in person if I ever see you. And, if you choose any of the perks that I have, whatever perk you have chosen, definitely if you're a trail boss or a wrangler, you're going to be seeing these videos. If you're just a ranch hand, then you probably won't until you decide to update further. But I look forward to meeting you all, and I will see you guys in the next video. Just to kind of let you guys know what I'm going to do, heads up, is I am actually purchasing a cowboy, I am purchasing a Colt Single Action Army, and I am going to give you a preview video on that as soon as I get it in. And you will get to see it before any of my YouTubers. So that is my next perk for you guys, and we'll do a nice little one-on-one with that pistol. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Welcome to the Slick Sixguns Network, and I'll see you on down the trail in the next video. Thanks for watching.